to the Voice of Horror Radio with your host,
Guider.
Hello everyone, this is Scott Guider, the Voice of Horror Radio. My very special guest is from the cast of Mr. White. It's director Erica Summers, actress Gianna Cambria, actress Summer Perkins, and Andy J. Salgado. How you guys doing, gals?
Great. Good. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Okay, well, as you know, quite a few people has reviewed Mr. White, and I actually didn't quite see it until it was posted in my movie reviewers around the globe group. So I contacted Erica. I very, very seldom do not do that, but the film had my peak interest when I read the storyline, because I'm a 40-something-year-old guy, and I grew up in the 80s, and I love the 80s cheese, the 80s slashers, and you name it. And this movie, I knew nothing about, like I said. But actually, when I did watch the film, I did see some 80s throwback, which I thought was the topper on this film. I mean, it would have been great either way, but I think the monster alone reminded me of a lot of films in the mid-'80s, and I just absolutely enjoyed this film, and you guys were fantastic. And Erica, I'm proud to say that, as I said in my review, that this is one of my favorite slasher films of probably this year, and more likely in the last 3 years or 4 years, of an 80s style slasher film. Congratulations.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much.
No problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with you, Erica. You are the mother, the inventor, the writer, the creator, the mastermind behind this film. I want to start with you, and for the listeners who have not heard you, or know much about you, they will after today, is give your storyline, basically how this movie came about and where the ideas came from, or anything you want to say.
Okay, no problem. We were in the midst of filming my previous film, Loverboy, which is more of a suspense thriller, sort of a man meets girl, girl falls for man turns out to be crazy and psychotic. So it's quite different from this, and I felt like I kind of cheated myself a little bit when I was, watching it back in the theaters and watching it as I was editing. I felt like, I'm a child of horror. I've watched horror since I was, just a young girl, and I really felt like I wanted to go much more horror with my future films. And so I thought, okay, I always have, humans as the villains in my films. I said, I'd love to get into, create something fresh, something that scared me as much as films like Pumpkinhead scared me as a child. And I just wanted to create something fresh, something no one had ever seen before. So we got some money together, and I created the mask and the monster while I was coming up with the story. And as I'm sculpting him, I'm coming up with more of the story and stuff, and, casting him in latex and painting him, and coming up with more backstory. And by the time the monster was done, the script had been done and polished, and we were ready to cast. And, I remember bringing the mask and the hands and everything out at the table read, and everyone, watching everyone's reaction to it and thinking, yeah, I think we're on to something here. Even these people are seeing it in the full daylight, and they're getting pretty creeped out by it. I think we've done something fresh and original. So that's pretty much that. And then there's a huge element of voodoo in the film, and voodoo has always been one of the only things in real life that has ever scared me. Like, I'm not scared by clowns or, things like that. I'm scared by, voodoo and sacrilegious things and stuff like that. I never want to mess with it because I always wonder, is it real?
Right.
So I wanted to put that element in the film as well, because I know it scares me. It scared me handling some of the real voodoo items that we used in the movie.
Wow.
So.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty much that.
Yeah, This story, like I said before, I don't want to say too much because it is not really available. Well, it's not available to the public. But there was so many. I thought the story that was cool about this film also, which I did forget to mention. I mentioned so much, I think. But when the lady in that shop gave the backstory of Mr. White, now that
Yes.
I thought was. I've never seen that done too much, and I thought that was brilliant because you're able to not only not do it in the beginning of the film like most movies do, is you did it towards towards a quarter way through.
Yeah, almost a third of the way in.
Right, and I thought that was brilliant. And
Thank you.
yeah, it just, like I said in my review, I felt, most slasher films that when you watch them, it's always, you son of a bitch, you're killing people. These poor little bitches and assholes, However,
Yeah.
but by the halfway through the film, or even before that, I'm feeling for Tyler and the monster, because the monster's only doing, because the monster alone I thought was unique because he killed a guy's, it doesn't matter. He kills a guy's daughter, and he gets cursed. But that curse is more like, how would you even call that curse? Andy is getting tormented. I don't want to go into detail what all they did. I don't want to ruin it, because I actually did say that in the review, and I cut it out because I went too far. So, oops, that's a spoiler. But to understand that Tyler is just a kid that, he has some home life problems, and and he has a great uncle from what I've seen in the film.
Yeah.
And then to be terrorized by Scott and his banshee, and believe it or not, the storyline here, it actually does happen in real life, not to the point of getting killed, but you start feeling for Tyler, and then it's like, how are you supposed to feel that bully's getting killed? We had the Columbine, we had, all these bullying things going on, and that's what makes this film so powerful, because it makes you decide which side you're on.
Exactly.
And that's the part that I think is so amazing and brilliant about this film, that other slasher films that I've watched doesn't have that high-end edge. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And one of the things that one of the things that I was trying to go for when I wrote it was I didn't want it to just be a typical, this happens to him, then this happens to... I wanted it to be something where by the time that the monster starts, getting his revenge, getting Tyler's revenge, I wanted people to find themselves almost accidentally rooting for the bad guys in a way, because they started out as the good guys, and so later, as there's murder and all these gory things going on, you're going, get him, and then you're like, wait a second, what am I saying?
I'm a sick fuck.
Yeah, I'm a sick person, because I am going, kill him, that wasn't gruesome enough, you should have run back over, like,
yeah.
That's what I want.
All right. Yeah, again, now, Gianna Cambria, your character, now, when I mentioned in the reviews to you young ladies and to the rest of the cast, besides Tyler, I wasn't trying to be offensive when I said bitches and assholes. I was just emphasizing bullying to the point where, so I hope you guys were not offended by me saying that.
No, of course not. If anything, it's somewhat of a compliment to the character. So
great. So, Gianna, go ahead and give your experience. How did you come across this role? Obviously there was a roll call. Am I correct?
Yes. I think I was actually in Europe at the time on vacation, and I think I came across the casting call online and sent Erica my demo reel, and she got back to me within a few weeks after casting and offered me the role of Amy. So I was pretty excited to be a part of it.
Nice. Yeah, your performance. Now, I'm going to ask you this. Erica mentioned about you did see the mask and all, right? Or not until you're on set. Did you see it beforehand?
No, I didn't see it until I was on set, because
Okay.
I didn't go to the physical casting call. I just sent in a video audition. So.
Perfect. So this is your first slasher film or horror film you're in?
No, I've done some other. I wouldn't call them horror films, but they're pretty gory in nature, so they're kind of right on the border with that.
Okay. So what was your experience like doing a film like this? You know, basically what I'm saying is, you know, acting is an amazing art, and, you know, I'm learning it since 30-some years or 20-some years since high school, but to be able to pull your role off and knowing what's going to happen, what was your experience like to be in a film like this? Like, you know, you mentioned about being in a film similar to it, but to be in a film where a death scene's coming or however, what was your experience like for that?
It's actually kind of a running joke, and in most of my projects, I do end up dying somehow or another. So that wasn't anything too atypical for me, but I was really excited about this project just because the script was something that I think we can all relate to, because whether, you know, we were directly affected by bullying or what have you, we all know someone that's gone through something similar to this, or at least, you know, have been through the school systems where it's not always a nice place to be. So I think that was kind of an attraction for me to the script. And it's always such a treat to get good writing, especially within independent productions. So I was really excited about that aspect. But the character was something really different that I don't normally get to play. It was something a little bit lighter than most of what gets thrown my way. So, and I've definitely never played, to take your term, I've definitely never played the bitch like that. So it was fun.
Well, you knocked out of the ballpark, and congratulations on a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, now we got the cell phone queen.
I'm on my cell phone right now, actually.
Summer Perkins, your character, again, this is only a movie, but I'm giving you my preference as being a reviewer, and to watching a film like this, you really annoyed me. Probably not as much as Scott does, but when I say that, I meant that a good wise, because it makes the film more interesting and more physical to watch. But your character was quite interesting, and you also nailed it in the park. Your experience now, as I asked Gianna, what was your experience like of doing a role like this?
You know, it's interesting because I think I would like to hope that this is a extreme departure from how I am as a person.
It is.
I hope so.
So it didn't come naturally. However, it's actually really freeing and kind of fun to be able to go and explore a character like that and figure out, you know, why she would be the way that she is, and thinking about that, I think, is really interesting and made a lot of more interesting choices too. So
you just I guess it's fun to let it loose. That's the word you can use. Let it loose. Be somebody different. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can ramble on about this film. The characters. All the characters was great. I mean, annoying. When I say annoying, you know, you understand what I'm saying. It's just the chemistry in this film. I mean, I wasn't there, but from what I see and what I'm hearing, there was a strong chemistry in the film. You know, and you got a character like Tyler that we're going to get to very shortly. It's just an amazing film. I mean, I'm anxious to talk to the rest of the cast on this, because this film, I said it's an undiscovered gem, and when it does, it's going to become a diamond in a lot of slasher films, a lot of slasher fans' homes in the future, because think about this, you know, the 80s are gone, you know, and it's sad, those types of films, you know, where I love 80s cheese. I don't care how stupid it is. It's just fun to be able to watch it. And because I grew up in that era, so it's like it brings me back to my youth when I watch films like that, even to today. But watching this film, I mean, I can't say it brings me back to my youth totally, but it brings me back to like 1987 or 88 or in 86 era. And I think that's what makes this film so close to me, is why I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, and that's some of the greatest horror films, I think. You know, I think that's what's so great about it, too, because I'm a huge horror fan. And to see going back to more of the true horror, I think lately, now we don't have as many great scary films. I go to the movie theater and expect to be scared, and I don't feel scared. And so that's what I think is so great about this one, is it really does pay homage to the great 80s horror films, and like you were saying in the beginning too. So
amen. Summer, I'll tell you again, you did a fantastic job, and I really appreciate the characters in this film, because it is what it is, and it happens. But but the person that I'm anxious to talk to, because he took upon himself to contact me right after I posted a review, which I highly respect that, Andy, by the way. Thank you. Your character was just an eye-popping character, because there's so many emotions going through. Your experience with Mr. White. Now, I apologize, I didn't check your IMDb page. I haven't had a chance to, but to be able to pull off this character, what's your experience been like since the film?
Since the film, we've had such a positive we've had such positive feedback from people that have watched the film. But this was actually my first feature film, or actually my first film ever that I've had any type of dialogue or anything. The only thing that I had done before this was I was an extra on a TV show, and all I did was walk back and forth. So I went from being an extra to being in a feature film where I felt like I was playing 4 characters at the same time. And my experience after the film was that I got to learn so much about myself as an actor. I got to learn a lot about my craft. I got to learn a lot about myself, and I learned, since it was my first feature film, I learned everything that I did in this film I had done for the first time. So luckily I had such a great, we had such a great cast and producers and a great director that was so patient with me, and who just taught me so much in general while I was there.
That's an amazing. Andy, it's funny you mentioned that, because I did my first film, believe it or not, on June 4th. I went to Long Island, New York, to play a bartender in a drama film, of all things, a drama, being a horror reviewer, and doing my first film's a drama. But then my second role, I played a psychiatrist, a creepy psychiatrist, and I know exactly how you feel. Anybody who's acting, you watch them on TV or movies, you're thinking, damn, they make it look so easy. But acting is not easy. It's one thing to memorize the lines, but it's another to perform them lines. And a lot of people don't understand that. And it's just like, when you complete a film, like I did and like you just did, obviously, it's a great feeling, is it not?
Yeah.
Your very first time doing it. It's just like you're hungry for more. You're hungry for more, aren't you?
Yeah, no, definitely. Especially when you film a scene that's so powerful, and there were many times in the movie where I just thought to myself, like, I wonder where that came from. Is Tyler my alter ego or something? I have no idea where this is coming from. And so you learn a lot about yourself as a person, and you learn, like I said, a lot about your craft. So I'm very grateful, and it's really cool.
It is, and your character, just by watching you, it's just the hair, the dark, the shadow in the eyes, and your relationship with your uncle, and then going to see your mom, and saying stuff. I don't want to get in full detail. I don't want to ruin it, but I don't know. Your character was eye-popping, like I mentioned earlier. The whole cast was. I mean, I can go on forever. I don't want to just aim on one person yourself, because the whole cast was fantastic. But this film, I'm telling you, is going to live for a long, long time, because once these 80s, there's a lot of 80s horror groups on Facebook that they talk about 80s films, and once this film starts really, really going viral, you guys are going to be these, I can see in 20 years this film being an iconic slasher film.
Aww.
And I mean that wholeheartedly, because 20 years from now I'll be 60-some years old, but I'll definitely will never forget this film. It's one of my favorites, and I'm very proud to be able to share the moment with watching it and being able to interview Erica and some of you cast, because not many films like this come along my way actually by just, like I mentioned earlier, I never contact people to ask for screeners because, I don't know, I got tons of films here to watch, but I just had to contact you, Erica, because it had my interest, and I'm glad I did because it's more than what I expected, and, I'm babbling, but,
I truly, truly appreciate that. I mean, going back to what you were saying about, the 20 years from now thing, it's funny that you say that because at one point in the film we were filming in a town, Inverness, and it's like 45 minutes away from the main town that we were filming in. So a lot of us stayed in like tents and the guest rooms that night, and I remember I looked at the makeup artist that night that we were staying in the tent together, and I said, can you just imagine 20 years from now, like, we're making Texas Chainsaw 1 right now, or, we're making Friday the 13th Part 1 right now, and, you never know, 20 years from now we're all on the red carpet for other things, and people are going to be like, oh my god, I'm such a Mr. White fan.
Exactly.
And I feel like we accomplished what we set out to accomplish with this film. I mean, especially with a limited budget, and, I do most things behind the camera myself. I mean, I film it, I edit it, I probably should get a lot more people on my crew, but I'm kind of a perfectionist in that I like things done a certain way, and I can just trust myself to do them. So there will be times when you see me, on the set, and I'm doing like 8,000 things at the same time, and people are like, can I help you? And I'm like, no, it's cool, I got it. But I think in a way, it worked out really well with this film because in the end product is you're seeing exactly what was in my brain, when I set out to create the film, and I feel so fortunate that we had such a wonderful cast. I mean, every single person in this film brought something new to the table that makes me look like a genius, but not all of it was, my doing. I mean, I know there were times that Summer would come to me and she would be like, what if my character did this? And I'm like, that's genius, let's go with it. And Andy impressed the hell out of me because originally he was not set to play Tyler. He was set to play a one-line role, and for reasons I won't get into, we ended up recasting for the role of Tyler. And I said, I met him at the read-through, and he seemed like a very positive, bright person, and I felt like he would be a better fit for the role. And, so I asked him if he wanted it, and he turned around. Not only did he say yeah, but I sent him just a buttload of homework within the next few weeks. I was like, watch this YouTube video on schizophrenia, watch this, and I want you to read this 20-page, review on this, and I want you to, I just like bombarded him with things like, to see, to see if he was serious and he was going to put forth the effort, but B, because I wanted that character to be as good as it could be. And Andy impressed the hell out of me because he came back and was like, I spent hours last night working on my walk, my Tyler walk. Can I show it to you? And we went out in my backyard and he showed me his Tyler walk, and I was like, wow, I'm just shocked that someone cared enough to put that much thought and time into just the way a character walks. He's calling up ordering pizzas and practicing his stutter, and I'll let Andy talk about that. Talk about that.
Oh my gosh, no, thanks for the great compliments. Yeah, there were a couple times where, like she said, she sent me a lot of videos on stuttering, and I ended up taking a college class in psychology just to, if it could help me on anything. But one day I was ordering pizza, and I decided to call Pizza Hut as Tyler and not myself. And I was stuttering the whole time. And within 2 minutes, as I'm ordering a pepperoni pizza and I'm talking, like like this, the guy hangs up on me. So I call back, and I have this, and I'm still like Tyler, and I'm saying, I'm stuttering, but I'm saying, please don't hang up with me. I'm stuttering. Can you please be patient while I order my pizza? And that's what I did to help me prepare for the role.
That's awesome, Andy.
And I knew if he couldn't pull off the stutter, I was going to cut it completely from the script, because I'd rather not have you stutter, poorly, than, because if you can't pull it off, you can't pull it off. So he came back to me, I think within 2 weeks of me giving him all the videos, and he was like, all right, I want to test this out for you. And I'm like, okay, this is the make or break moment where I pull out version 2 of the script. And he did it so well. I was like, I was very, very impressed. I knew we had made the right choice, because of all the effort and time that he had put into it. Excellent.
That's, to be able to even do that, I mean, Andy, Gianna and Summer and the rest of the cast too. You made it. This film was shot. It was made look so real as far as the character-wise. It's just, it's just amazing. I mean, I'm going on again about it, but it's one of my. I'll say it again. It's one of my favorites, and I really enjoyed it. And it's amazing, when you interview people. It's amazing, me being an actor too, and be able to. It's actually a learning process for me too, to hear Andy's story on how he did it, or Gianna or Summer, watching characters on the movies and stuff. It really helps. I mean, it's when you're an actor, you learn, and the better you get, and the more you do it, the better you get. So, compliments to all of you. So,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
No problem. And Erica, I'm telling you something. You have a future. You really do.
Thank you.
And we talked earlier on the phone for the first time ever before the interview, yes. And part 2 sounds very interesting to me. I'm here giving ideas to Erica because, I really enjoyed the first one, and I can see a sequel coming. I really do. And
it's exciting. It's exciting to hear you say that too, because that's what I want our audience to feel like. I want our audience to feel like they want more, not like, oh God, thank God that's over. I want them to be like, no, we need more. Yeah,
I got some creative ideas for Tyler. We talked about on the phone that I thought would be cool, but we won't say no more about that because I like to talk to you more about that down the road. But because I'm really interested in helping you, if you ever do make a sequel. I would love to be able to help out in some way.
Thank you very much. I know our next project, we're already slated for another horror film. In fact, I plan to stay in horror hopefully the rest of my life.
Nice.
It's just what I love. It's what I'm passionate. My very first film back in the day was I made a short film that was a horror, and then I made another short film that was a horror, and then I made my first feature that was a horror, and then I was like, well, I don't want to get pigeonholed into horror, so I went and did a comedy and then a drama, and I missed horror so bad that I came back with the thriller Loverboy, and I was just like, it's not horror enough. I need to go full horror, and this is where my heart lies. So, I'm making, we're in pre-production for another horror film right now called Mantis, that's going to be a very, very fun, interesting film. We have a lot of plans, and it's not intentionally, an 80s throwback, but it most definitely will be, if not more 80s, then just as much, 80s influenced as Mr. White. Possibly more though, because we have some really great ideas in store, and all of the films that I love and I'm inspired by are 80s, late 80s films. That's just where my heart lies. Is what I grew up with. Pumpkinhead scares me to this day. 2 years ago for my birthday, my husband threw me a party and said, we'll set up a projector and we can watch any movies you want. And I had a little bit to drink, and we watched Pumpkinhead, and I started crying, and people are like, what is wrong with her? And I was like, oh my God, he's coming back for her. And it's still, I've seen it hundreds of times, and to this day, Pumpkinhead comes out, and he is just as real as he was when I was 3 years old watching it, you know.
Yeah.
That's just what I love.
I think I was Andy's age that he is now when Pumpkinhead came out. I think I was like 19. So.
Mr. White is actually, speaking of Pumpkinhead, Mr. White is influenced probably most heavily by Pumpkinhead.
I noticed that.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. Instead of, the Swamp Witch Haggis, we've got the crazy, kooky voodoo mambo that tells the story. And, we've got the lore of Pumpkinhead that's a little similar to the lore of Mr. White. I mean, it's not a replica by any means, but it's inspired by, like the passion that I feel for a movie like Pumpkinhead that does still scare me to this day.
Gianna, you're gonna love it.
Yeah,
Summer,
I'm very
you're gonna
excited.
love it.
We have a world premiere at the Los Angeles Fear and Fantasy Festival in like 2.5 weeks. A couple of us are flying out to Los Angeles to go, and actually, so that'll be the first time. I'm literally the only person other than the reviewers that we've sent the screener to, who have seen it. So none of the cast have seen it yet because we haven't had our local premiere or our Palm Coast premiere yet.
Nice. So then, oh wow. That usually happens. I mean, I'll be doing the same thing probably. I'll probably going to the premiere and seeing it for the first time. But
exactly.
But it's just an overwhelming joy in this industry because Andy, did you ever think in a million years that you'd be in a movie?
No, actually, the first job that I ever had, I was an extra on the show The In-Betweeners for MTV, and the way that I got it was because someone found me over Facebook, and I had just ended up putting all of my college applications in and sending them, and because I wanted to be a lawyer. I mean, I always told people lawyers are just really good actors, but but the next day, that's when I got contacted, and then my life had just completely switched, and I decided, well, I'm not going to go to law school, I'm going to become an actor.
Nice. Gianna, how about you? Did you ever think in a million years that you'd be in a movie?
I don't know. I mean, acting was kind of a random thing for me. So I feel like once I set my sights on it, then it kind of, the idea crept in. But before that, absolutely not. I mean, I was really shy when I was younger, so I never thought that I would be passionate about something like this. So.
All right. Summer?
I always loved movies, but I didn't know, I never thought about being on the other side. But then actually it's funny, I found like a diary or a list of things that I wanted to do from 2007, and it says be an extra in a movie. And that's how I started out, was I was an extra, and then decided I wanted to pursue it more because I loved being on set and watching everything. So I took classes, and here I am.
Oh, cool. Hey, Erica?
I actually started out as an actress, oddly enough.
Oh, yeah?
That's how I got into making films at all. I was a terrible actress. I tried from the time I was probably 8 years old. My best friend and I grew up in Wyoming, so there's not a lot to do, so we walked around with a video camera and filmed each other being like news reporters, and we went around to the school and did skits and plays and all kinds of stuff. And I kept trying out for like the lead roles and all these school plays, and I was so bad, like they were barely giving me extra parts just because didn't have any other people to fill it. So I'm the only almost 6-foot munchkin in The Wizard of Oz. And, they didn't even want me to play the dog in Annie. I mean, I was just not good. And, but I thought I was great. So in high school, I told my friend, I was like, screw all this noise. We're making our own movie so I can be the star. And I wrote this 15-page script for this movie called The Stalker, where I play this girl who's stalking this guy, and he doesn't give her love back, so she murders him and all of his friends. And, we did like all the little pre-production, and we dug my dad's video camera out of the attic And I was like, let's do this. And we set it up on some sticks and stuff out in the alleyway for scene 1. And my friend looks at me and she's like, who's gonna be the director? And I was like, well, you have to do it because I'm the star, duh. And she's like, I don't want to be the director. I don't want any responsibility for this. And I was like, she's like, you're good at bossing people around. You should be the director. I'm like, how can I be the director and the star? And she's like, I don't know, but I know I'm not doing it. And there were like 3 people in the movie. So I was like, you know what? Fine. I am good at multitasking. And so in the scenes that weren't mine, this one day I got behind the camera and I was like, okay, you do this and you do that. And they did it. And I was like, oh my God, I have power now. They're listening to me. Like, I boss people around all the time and nobody ever does what I say. But when I have a camera in my hand, they're listening, and I fell in love with, like, the control I had over it, and which makes me sound like a horrible person, but after a while I started watching my own performances on video, and I was just like, man, I suck. Like, why has nobody, like, flat out told me this and saved me a bunch of time? Then, so I started, like, weaning myself out of movies more and more, and by, like, my 3rd movie, I wasn't even in them anymore, and I was just like, I'm the mastermind behind the camera, and I love it.
Yeah, mastermind is a key word, because this movie, Mr. White, is a brilliant, masterminded piece of writing, so.
Thank you.
It all comes full circle, you know what I mean? So.
Absolutely.
We all come from somewhere, and we all learn eventually. And you know, it's a fun. You know, I love independence because the simple fact is people like Andy and Gianna and Summer and myself and yourself can actually make a film with a no budget, minimum budget, low budget, however. And if you got the right writing and you got the right cast and you got the right crew, you can do anything.
You can make an entertaining film on next to nothing that is more entertaining than some of the multi-million-dollar stuff that Hollywood puts out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not bashing Hollywood. I'm just saying,
right.
You know, a lot of us out here who, we have great ideas, but we don't have rich relatives that are going to die and leave us all of their money, so we got to figure it out and not take a bunch of excuses for why we can't do something, you know?
Right.
I don't believe in excuses like that. I just want to get it done and do it, and if we have no money, we have no money, but we will still do it.
Right. So, anyways, I want to thank you all for coming on.
Exactly.
I do it my way, and it's pretty fun. So, thanks again, take care, and we'll definitely talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
We'll see you.
Bye.